My name is Ben. As I said at the beginning, I'm the Associate Vicar here, and it's wonderful to have you with us. We're continuing our series of Come and Worship. And you may remember that last week, Vicky spoke to us about the woman who poured out perfume on Jesus' feet. This idea of moving from a routine of doing what we do, maybe for the sake of it sometimes, or when we feel trapped, to the radical. What does it mean to act differently in response to what God has done for us? So this week, I'm looking at the man who jumped for joy. The man who jumped for joy, as we saw in the video. And again, I'm a big fan of the Saddleback videos because I like to imagine what would it be like to be there? What would it be like to see those same faces, to be walking to dates with Peter? And what I find interesting about the story is that the man who jumped for joy, the event happens in an everyday situation. It's the same kind of day. It's a normal day. I don't know about you, but sometimes I wake up and it just feels like one of those days when maybe nothing super exciting is going to happen, nothing bad's going to happen, but it's just kind of the same old. For me, it's normally Monday morning. Get my bike out, cycle to work. It's great to see everybody, but nothing really changes. It's just the same kind of day. And I think that's what we see with this guy and his friends. The friends help the man, which is wonderful, and I believe they were doing it for his very best. They sat him at what's called the beautiful gate. Not the scummy gate, not the back gate, not somewhere around the back where he'll be hidden, but the beautiful gate. And I couldn't help but look into why was it called the beautiful gate. And it turns out it's a nickname for a gate, because the gate itself is thought to have been the main, largest gate made from the most expensive bronze metal. And it faced the east. So anyone who's any good at geography, I'm not even sure if it is geography, will know that as the sun rises in the morning, when they're going to prayers in the morning, the gate would have just been glowing. It would have shone. It would have been beautiful. So this man is sat in the same place he always gets put by his loving friends. And I think the best way to look at it is that he was ticking over nicely. He was getting money. Clearly he expected he'd be given some money. But he wasn't moving forward. His friends had done all they could to help him. But we find that there's a gift more than money can buy, which is God's power through Jesus. I'll be honest, as I wrote this, I found it quite funny at how easily I slipped into what Vicky spoke about last week, the routine over the radical. And I think this story, it has quite a deep meaning for me because it was in a stained glass window at the church I grew up in. And I used to love the boldness of that faith, but never quite was sure if I could do it myself. I just remember thinking, do I just need more hope in Jesus? And I think that it isn't just me. I remember when I first started in ministry, when I first had a dog collar on and I wasn't really sure what I was doing, I remember feeling really disappointed that I just felt like I couldn't see God anywhere. All my emails seemed to be about admin or about being at this next meeting or making sure you're doing this right or you're doing that right. Make sure you're here at this time. And I was like, where's God in this? Where's God in this? Where's God in the church? I remember I was sat in the kitchen having breakfast and I was listening to Hillsong, who are a worship band. And it's when their new album came out. And there's a song where in the opening track, the words say, "Here now. All I know is I know that you are here now. Still my heart, let your voice be all I hear now. Spirit, breathe like the wind. Come have your way, because I know you're in this place." And I just started crying. I'm not much of a crier, but I started crying when I realized how silly it was to think that I could solve everything. As if somehow the right email through to me was going to solve it. I was sad also. I mean, this happened in split seconds. Anyone who's a crier, probably more professional than me. I was then sad because I had, without realizing it, allowed myself to think that God had finished with where I was. Even though I was going in new, fresh-faced, younger, described as a breath of fresh air, which is lovely, I actually realized that I thought God was finished, which is ridiculous. But then I started happy crying, which I don't do very often either, as I realized that God was with me. He's with us. He was in that place and he was moving. And the same is still true now. And the question is that where do we expect to see transformation in our homes, in our city, in our workplaces, in our schools, wherever we find ourselves? We see in the story that this man is healed and he jumps for joy at what God has done. There is pure energy as he jumps up. And as you saw, these slightly terrifying popping balls, just like the man, it was shaped and moved and then turned inside out by the power of Jesus, by the hope that his disciples had in what Jesus could do. He sat there. Oh, that's not flat enough. It's going to take my eye out. That was rubbish. And he just sprung for joy. You know, I'm going to do a dangerous version. Juliet, look out. Go on for joy. He said, give me a fiver if I could do that. Anyway, it's fine. What I realize is that it is also part of a choice of being open to that hope, of seeing the joy of God in our lives. So much so that I think our hearts can leap for joy. I want to encourage you as we worship, allow yourself to move with joy. It sounds really... hello. Saugen. I got a picture of my sister's scan last week. She's having a baby. And there was just that moment where you just feel that lift. It wasn't a bit like this or a bit like butterflies. It was literally like a lift inside, that leaping for joy. And I think that we need to look at how we express our thankfulness. The fact that we get to live in a different way by knowing Jesus. Just like this man who couldn't walk, but now he could. And this is a bit tricky because we are Anglican. You may not think it, but Anglicans are very good at having lots of words, and I do love that. But I started looking at the words that we sing a lot in our worship, words we come across a lot in our psalms. And it turns out a lot of them are physical responses. And I hate to break it to you, none of the words mean to just stand there with your hands in your pockets as you sing songs to God, or to look at your watch, or to check your phone. The first one is, I don't expect you to remember these, it's Hebrew. It's pronounced shaka. And this is commonly translated as worship. How many times do we say worship, or you read worship, or you come across worship in songs? But this word actually means to prostrate yourself, to get on all fours. I'll just do it. Like this. I'm behind the table. Getting as low as possible, lying down flat before God to revere him. The next one is yada, which is often translated as praise. Praise my soul, the King of heaven. That is an absolute classic. I rarely see hands go up. Technically, it should do. Because that's what it means to hold out the hand, especially to acknowledge God's holiness. And then the last one, which I find fascinating, so I've had lots of chats around this, is the word barak. And barak is translated as blessing. So for those of you who get confused when we sing, Bless the Lord, O my soul, by Matt Redman, it's a classic, 10,000 Reasons. And we say, how do we bless God? How do we bless God when God blesses us? Am I the only one who thought that? No, good. When we see the word bless like that, it means to kneel before. It doesn't mean just saying the word, bless the Lord, O my soul. What does that mean? What am I having for lunch? Bless means to kneel before. And then, of course, we come across jumping for joy like the man who experienced God. We come across singing, shouting, clapping, shaking tumbrers, and other exciting things. And I just think by allowing ourselves to change our physical posture, how we are, like how the popper changes, it helps us be reminded of how he has moved in our lives and transformed us. Like, where do you want to see God move in our lives and around us? Where do you want to see more of that hope? So I'd like to invite the band to come up. And I just wanted to share that we've actually got a lot to jump for joy because of our church, because of what we see going on. It isn't just on Sundays. We've got our midweek groups that have taken off and people have really connected with them. It's brilliant. But I had the opportunity to be at the Love Your Neighbour Cafe on Thursday, and some of the conversations were mind-blowing. We're offering a safe space for people who might have nowhere else to be, a safe space for people who just need someone to talk to. Or there's even some people who just like to sit there and have a coffee and not be talked to, knowing that this is a safe place. I had the opportunity to talk to somebody about what does it mean to come to faith. I had a chat to somebody who felt like God was maybe calling them to ministry. And they weren't planned. But all of this is happening in this room, in this space that we fill with worship, with prayer. So let's stand together.